from Stan Shunpike
What you doing down there?
I fell over.
What you fell over for?
to Harry's mom herself. There are some misfires in the cast of Harry Potter. J.K. Rowling is a lot of things, but most people would say she's at least good at writing. Well, the characters on my list today don't reflect very well on those skills. First up, it's Nymphadora Tonks.
Don't call me Nymphadora.
For a lot of fans, Dora's writing, or lack thereof, is especially frustrating. In her few appearances, her role in the story is sadly limited. I mean, even her family's backstory sounds like it could even be a novel on its own. Her mom got herself disowned by her noble house so she could be with her dad, which is just the saddest thing. Later in life, Dora trained to be an Auror under Mad-Eye Moody, only barely qualifying for the job because of her clumsiness.
First, and wizard second.
She joins the Order of the Phoenix and gets down to the business of stopping old Voldemort. Her most notable scene is helping Harry escape from Casa Dursley to 12 Grimmauld Place. In later books, she would have a tragic love story of her own with Remus Lupin. Unfortunately, it all happens behind the scenes. Also behind the scenes, she and Lupin got married and had a baby together, and then she dies in the Battle of Hogwarts. What's irritating about this is that Rowling had a great story in the margins here, but she never quite brought it to the forefront. In that sense, though, Dora might have been better off than some other characters. Characters like Stan Shunpike, for instance.
My name is Stan Shunpike, and I will be your conductor for this evening.
If you had to scratch your head a little to remember who Stan is, then you're starting to see the problem. When we first meet Stan, he's what the Brits would call a twit. After all, he drove The Boy Who Lived around on the night bus without realizing who the passenger was. But his role in the story expands suddenly when he's sent to Azkaban for supposed Death Eater activity. It was only because Stan pretended to have insider knowledge of the Death Eater's plans. Did he?
He was a big supporter of you know who.
Who knows? I suppose you hear stuff when you drive the night bus. But did he have many Death Eater passengers? Anyway, Azkaban is a pretty terrible place, and so when the Death Eaters broke him out, he naturally joined their ranks. Or maybe it was because they hit him with the Imperious Curse. He's later a part of the Death Eater squad that tries to capture Harry at Privet Drive. This is an example of Rowling's tendency to turn minor characters and events into Chekhov's guns. In her mind, she can make a connection from anything to anything. All she has to do is dream big enough. Two other examples of this are Gregory Goyle and Vincent Crabbe. She takes Draco's goons into a shocking direction. In a more innocent time of the story, that is, the first two books, Goyle and Vincent Crabbe are friends with Draco Malfoy.
This is Crabbe and Goyle, and I'm Malfoy. Draco Malfoy.
And when I say friend, I mean the same way that you're friends with your boss at work. Their whole thing in reality was to go around and do whatever Draco told them to. Usually, that just involved bullying any of the non-Slytherin main characters. But his role too grows over the course of the series, as it revealed that their dads were Death Eaters. They even served Voldemort during the First Wizarding War, and they were still around during the Second. The pair themselves joined the Inquisitorial Squad, Dolores Umbridge's secret police force on campus. After his and Crabbe's fathers are arrested, the two of them proceed to try and murder Harry in revenge. It's a good thing Harry's own squad, Dumbledore's army, was around to save him. They tried it again during the Battle of Hogwarts, though it was Crabbe who got out of control there. Crabbe gets himself killed in the process. If Rowling had these intentions for them at the start, they should have had more character development from the start. The fact is, the only Slytherin student she was ever really interested in was Draco, so the better option there would have been to leave Goyle and Crabbe out of the story in later books. Let's switch back to the good guys. I couldn't leave Cho Chang off this list. I mean, her name alone has sparked outrage in some corners of the Harry Potter fanbase. Her actual character arc isn't much better either. Cho is introduced as a Quidditch competitor. Harry gets a crush on her at first sight. but Cho decides to be with Cedric Diggory instead. Well, fortunately for Harry, the Triwizard Tournament ends with a vacancy for the role of Cho's boyfriend. The two of them get together, while Cho is a member of Dumbledore's army, but the whole relationship is poorly written. Harry is constantly annoyed by Cho and her emotions, while Cho has mood swings over her grief and Harry's closeness with Hermione. Ironic, Cho's jealousy was misplaced, as Harry later wound up with Jenny. I don't get why Rowling put Harry in a relationship at all if this was how she was going to handle it. And if you ask the author, she'd probably say that she conceived Harry's ending with Jenny all the way back in 1975 or something. I think Cho had a decent arc of being a confident young girl who suffers a tragic loss and signs up to avenge Cedric. Joanne shouldn't have bothered hooking her up with Harry, I think. Before I get to the end of the list, though, I want to bring up a character out of left field. We need justice for Dudley Dursley.
How many are there?
36.
36! But last year I had 37!
All right, I need y'all to hear me out. So, Dudley is introduced in the stone that either belonged to a sorcerer or philosopher, and his first actions in the book are to bully Harry and be privileged over him. I get why he's so easy to hate, but as the book goes on, Dudley's aggression towards Harry decreases. That could either be because he's growing up, or it could be because he's scared. Regardless, though, something terrible always happens to Dudley in the first chapters of a Potter book. Now, you could defend Rowling's writing of Dudley as being targeted to children. It's still kind of messed up, don't you think? On one hand,
Who did this to you, boy?
Dudley is being spoiled by his parents. On the other hand, he's being traumatized by Harry and his wizard friends. At the end of the day, Dudley's a child too. What sort of future will this kid have? Did he get to finish the story with kids named after his favorite characters? We'll never know. Time for my actual last entry though. The woman who Rowling considers the wife of James and missed prize of Severus.
After all this time.
Harry Potter's parents are important figures in this story, even if they died before the story began. Through flashbacks, we learn a lot about Lily Potter, Harry's mom. She was loved by everyone who knew her, but in particular, she was part of a love triangle between James and Snape. Her entire life seemed to be defined by those two characters. For instance, Snape was the one who told her she was a witch. And introduced her to the wizarding world. At Hogwarts, she defends him from James's bullying and tries to stop Snape from joining the Death Eaters. Sometime after that, of course, the two of them get married. They have Harry. Voldemort shows up, and y'all know the rest. The problem is that Lily is only ever seen through the lens of these two men. It's a stark contrast from how Rowling wrote Hermione or McGonagall and Umbridge. It's kinda weird, but Rowling only ever wrote the female characters through the eyes of guys. So there you have it. This was a list of characters who make you wonder if J.K. Rowling was going insane.